Hey there, folks. Tonight, we're diving headfirst into some of the world's most pressing conflicts. We're talking Nagorno-Karabakh, Venezuela, and the Sahel region. Now, I know what you're thinking. John, those sound like places I should know more about, but I'm too busy binge-watching reality TV. Well, fear not, my friends, because I'm here to break it down for you in a way that even your goldfish could understand. First up, we've got Nagorno-Karabakh, a disputed territory nestled between Armenia and Azerbaijan. They've been fighting over this place for what feels like forever, and things have been heating up again recently. Next, we're jetting off to Venezuela, a country grappling with a political and economic crisis of epic proportions. Think hyperinflation, food shortages, and a government that's about as popular as a skunk at a picnic. And finally, we'll be touching down in the Sahel region of Africa, a vast expanse of land plagued by poverty, climate change, and, you guessed it, more conflict. Now, I know this all sounds pretty heavy, but stick with me. We're going to unpack these complex issues with a healthy dose of humor and hopefully learn a thing or two along the way. So buckle up, Buttercup, because it's about to get real. Let's start with Nagorno-Karabakh, shall we? This little slice of land has been a source of tension between Armenia and Azerbaijan since the fall of the Russian Empire. Both countries claim it as their own, and they've fought 2 wars over it, most recently in 2020. The latest flare-up has seen accusations of blockades, ceasefire violations, and a whole lot of finger-pointing. It's like a really tense episode of Real Housewives, but with higher stakes. The international community, in their infinite wisdom, has tried to mediate the situation, but so far no dice. Russia, Turkey, and the US are all vying for influence in the region, which only complicates matters further. It's like a geopolitical game of chess, but with real lives hanging in the balance. Next, we're off to sunny Venezuela, where the situation is about as bright as a coal mine. The country has been in a state of economic and political turmoil for years, thanks in part to government mismanagement, corruption, and US sanctions. Inflation is so out of control that you practically need a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy a loaf of bread. President Nicolas Maduro, the heir to Hugo Chávez's socialist revolution, has managed to cling to power despite facing widespread protests and international condemnation. He claims to be the victim of an imperialist plot, while his opponents accuse him of being a dictator who's run the country into the ground. It's a classic case of, he said, she said, but with a whole lot more at stake than who ate the last cookie. Section 4. The Sahel, a breeding ground for instability. Finally, let's head over to the Sahel, a region in Africa that's about as stable as a unicycle on a tightrope. This vast swathe of land is grappling with a multitude of challenges, including poverty, drought, climate change, and a whole bunch of armed groups vying for power. It's like the Wild West out there, but with less cowboy hats and more AK-47s. The situation is further complicated by the presence of foreign powers, including France, the US, and Russia, all of whom are keen to exert their influence in the region. It's a recipe for disaster, and unfortunately, it's the people of the Sahel who are paying the price. Section 5, Global Perspectives and Local Voices. Now, you might be thinking, John, this is all very depressing. Is there any hope for these places? And to that I say, well, it's complicated. The international community is divided on how to address these conflicts. Some advocate for diplomacy and dialogue, while others believe that military intervention is the only way to restore order. Meanwhile, the people living in these conflict zones are caught in the crossfire. They're the ones who bear the brunt of the violence, the poverty, and the instability. Their voices often go unheard, drowned out by the noise of geopolitical maneuvering and international power struggles. Section 6. The long road ahead, navigating complexity. So there you have it, folks, a whirlwind tour of 3 of the world's most pressing conflicts. As you can see, these are complex issues with no easy solutions, but that doesn't mean we should just throw up our hands and give up. We need to stay informed, engage in constructive dialogue, and demand that our leaders prioritize peace and stability over their own self-interests. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the sheer scale of these problems, but remember, even small actions can make a difference. Whether it's donating to a reputable charity, contacting your elected officials, or simply educating yourself and others about these issues, every little bit helps. That's it for tonight, folks. Tune in next time when we'll be discussing the existential threat posed by killer squirrels. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay hopeful.